you like related?
Really. Long ago, really. It didn't make me realize how long it had been back to even expected to sit there.
Dr. Louise is started. Dr. Louise. Hello.
He's a good guy.
I can give this to you and your siblings. You each wear this on the left side.
Well, so you okay?
Hello.
I'll do too often. And ladies and gentlemen, the chairs are really spread out because the cemetery just doesn't know your comfort level and who's been with who. So feel comfortable putting them close. Don't remember me. Could never stop you wrong. COVID haircut. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. We're going to invite you to come in and fill in some of these seats and come close to the grave. So that we're all together. I can also remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones for the service. Welcome, everyone. Thank you again for being here today. My name is Rabbi Solomon Bernwald, and I'm here with Cantor Ariel Green from Congregation HEA. And it is our honor to accompany you this afternoon in this most sacred and solemn moment as we bid farewell to Lolo Heller and offer comfort to her family. We'll begin our service with Psalm 23.
תנחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא המוות, לא יירא רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. ערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי, וישנת בשמן ראשי כוסי ברוויה. עכשיו החסד ידחוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green pastures, leading me beside the still waters, restoring my soul, guiding me in straight paths, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Kirachem av al banim richem Adonai al yereav, ki hu yada yitzrenu zachor ki afar anachnu. As a father has compassion for his children, Adonai has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are but dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But Adonai's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging. In the Torah's account of creation, the Bible teaches that the Lord formed the first human being, Adam, from the dust of the earth. God blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and the human being became alive. Our sages taught that we can derive wisdom from the manner in which God created humanity, what it means to be created in the image of God, to have God's breath of life within us, is that each human soul has something unique to contribute to the world. Each of us is a reflection of God's will in the world with the potential to fulfill our destiny as partners in creation. What it means to be created in the spark of the divine is that each of us has something transcendent in us, something that is greater than flesh and blood. Nonetheless, the Torah also reminds us that we are but dust of the earth, formed of the same stuff as the rest of the universe. Our bodies are destined to return to the earth from where they came. We all live with this paradox. We are part earth and part divine. Part of us dies and part of us lives on. Today we gather to lovingly return Lolo Heller's body to the earth. It is an act of deep kindness and compassion. And today we also gather to lovingly accompany Lolo's neshama, her soul, on its final journey. Out of love, we honor those parts of Lolo that live on. We welcome those who are joining us from afar, and we hope that you can follow this service online. We will hear more about Lolo and her life. First, we'll call upon her children to share some words with us. Do you have an order in mind?
introduced me to love. Her heart spread far and wide everywhere she went, and she spread love and joy to all who showed it to her. She was strong and brave on so many levels and gave that spirit to me. She gave me the space to be who I became and loved me eventually for the choices I made. Love, respect is what she gave me always. I shall pass on to my children what she passed on to me, and it will go on and on and on and on for as many generations as possible. Lolita, my mamacita, will live forever in our hearts.
Thanks for being here. I am the product of my mom, Louise, Lolo. She gave me the fortitude to be a positive, loving person and to always look for the good in everything. I don't think I've ever met anyone that didn't take an immediate liking to my mom. To all my friends growing up, tell me I wish my mom was more like your mom. I adore her. I learned at a very early age her selflessness, shoving us to and from swimming lessons, swim team practice, swim meets, movie theater, all those things we took it for granted as kids. She was there for us. She and Dad gave us a profound appreciation of Colorado mountains and the overall environment and the times we spent camping in old snowmass. They, of course, had no clue about camping. It was learn as you go, but that made it all the more fun. Each year was better and better. We had no clue as young children, of course, but they organized our camping trips like seasoned pros. And at the time, that's all they could afford. As we got older, Mom took a job at the Encore shop, a secondhand consignment clothing store that she eventually managed. My dad was already making a name for himself in the wholesale liquor industry at the time, and between the two of them, it gave them the means to start traveling further. Not hotel travelers, but camping travelers. They drove us from Denver to Miami and back, camping all along the way. They loved it even though as teenagers it made it miserable for them. Of course they loved it. Later in life, we of course laughed about it around the kitchen table. My dad opened Heritage Wine and Liquors. They were finally able to live their dream of international travel, making friends all along the way. South America, Africa, Middle East, Asia, Europe. And after the loss of my dad, Mom continued her travels with friends and family. Mom and I became closer as I accompanied her to her favorite pastimes, Broadway plays at the DCPA, and of course Broncos games. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She had to, being married to my father. She was terrible at telling jokes, but belted out an intoxicating laugh and told a good one. In fact, it was even more fun when she didn't get the joke, and we'd have to explain it to her. But the overall picture of my mom was making others comfortable wherever she was. Family and friends were her lifeblood. Growing up in Denver's West Side gave her that enormous sense of community, which she brought with her to her beautiful little Connecticut, where she spent her last days in Orofino and Castle Pines, where her neighbors adored her. That's who Mom was. In closing, I'd like to share a statement that the sales rep once said about my mom many, many years ago. It goes like this. They should tear down the Statue of Liberty and put one up of your mother. Love you, Mom. Rest in peace.
do you begin to honor a woman like Lola? I've been a mama's boy my entire life. Proud to be a mama's boy. As her firstborn, I was her pride and joy for 2 years. And then came David, and then came my sister Sue. And then, of course, Greg was born, which was moot to all of us. As a family, we had more than our share of heartache. It happens. The Heller family sitting here today as a whole is a closely knit group of aunts, uncles, cousins, and more grandchildren. Our family suffered the tragic death of my brother Greg, which tested all of us in ways that you just can't imagine. But because of you, all of you, and our resolve, and her resolve especially, we came together more as a family. In my teens, as a precocious, demanding, entitled child, I particularly drove her crazy on a daily basis. Not something I'm proud of today, but you learn from things like that. She was only 21 years old when I was born. A child, really. And admittedly, she'd confess, as did my father, they didn't know what the hell they were doing with kids. But they felt their way through this path, hoping that we would turn out all right. I think they did a fine job, especially Mom, the homemaker, the parent who had to tend to us while Dad worked 6 days a week for most of our youth, only allowing us to see him on Sundays. In later years, as my hair turned white and our difference in age was shrinking, I would always be struck at the numerous times people would assume that we were husband and wife. Restaurants, hotels, and most recently the hospital staff. And Mom would always proclaim that this is my oldest son, with a huge smile she always had. And about a year or so ago, I commented to her that it was funny to me that I was 22 years younger than her, and I was in Las Vegas dating women 22 younger than me. All she would do is shake her head and agree. It didn't matter to her. All she wanted was mine and everyone's happiness, whatever makes you happy. But in all seriousness, for me to describe my mother in a single word, I would call her inspirational. For she instilled in me a desire to be loving and kind, to treat people, no matter race, religion, or creed, with respect. And those qualities were 24/7, 365 days a year. Through my life, as I try my best to emulate her spirit, I'm reminded that she set a standard so high that it is nearly impossible for a mortal such as myself to become that balanced, because that's what she was. And if she touched me that way, I'm sure she touched everyone who had the good fortune to meet her the same. For that part of her resides within my soul forever, as I'm sure it does with those who love her. I love you, Mom. I will miss you, and you live within me.
Thank you, Susan, David, and Stephen. Tonight and tomorrow night, I hope that others will have an opportunity to share as well when we gather for Shiva Minyanim online. I'll share more information about that momentarily. Just to fill in a little bit more information about Lolo and her life, you heard from her kids. Lolo was born in the historic Jewish neighborhood on Denver's west side to a working class family. Though not particularly religious, she grew up immersed in the rich Jewish environment near Sloan's Lake, where friends looked out for one another and stayed connected for a lifetime. When Lolo was just 14 years old, she met a young man who would become the only love of her life. Erwin Heller was 4 years older than Lolo and headed off for the Navy, but the couple was patient. Erwin, known to his friends as Yitzchak or Ike, waited for his bride, and the couple got married when Lolo was just 19 years old. Erwin went to work in his family's businesses, in liquor stores and motels, and he worked very hard and cherished the little time he had each week with his wife and children. Lolo dedicated herself to raising her kids, first on the west side and then southeast Denver and eventually Castle Pines. Stephen, David, and Susan fondly remember their mom as a loving and supportive mother who was nurturing and encouraging. She spent long days with them at the JCC pool and schlepping them to their activities. They also remember the grief that Lolo carried for the loss of their brother Greg Mitchell, who died tragically in a hiking accident. Lolo and Ike were devastated and hurt by some of the family members' response. But Lolo had a courageous spirit. She was embraced by her Heller family, and her devotion to her children and friends sustained her. Even after the devastating loss of her beloved Erwin 20 years ago, Lolo persevered. The ancient collection of rabbinic wisdom known as Pirkei Avot states, "V'heye mekabel et kol ha'adam besever panim yafot." Receive every person with a friendly face. Lolo Heller lived by this ethic. To Lolo, there were no strangers. She made conversations with anyone and befriended people of all walks of life. When the kids were old enough, Lolo went to work, first at a clothing consignment shop and later in the family business at Heritage Wine and Liquors. She worked the register, and everyone who came in regularly knew her. They all remember her greeting them with a friendly face. Lolo loved family, and she loved to enjoy life with Erwin and her children. She and Erwin were avid outdoors people, enjoying fishing, camping, hiking, and hunting. Lolo had no vanity or pretension. She loved caring for her children and having her family together for Jewish holidays, when she loved to make homemade strudel. The Hellers have always been there for one another through life's triumphs and defeats, through every challenge and every simcha. Lolo valued family. She was compassionate, kind, empathetic, and she didn't sweat the small stuff. She was always there for other people, and she was loyal to her lifelong friends, especially those with whom she had grown up on the West Side. She was generous and gave what she could. She would say goodbye with declarations of hugs and kisses, and she couldn't say, "I love you," enough times. She allowed her emotions to show, and she was known to tear up at a sentimental movie or a patriotic song. Lolo loved to learn and took classes about film and art and other things in her later years. She loved to sing along with classic Hollywood musicals. She loved to travel and encounter new places and experiences. Grandma Lolo was beloved to her grandchildren Taylor and Dylan, and also by Taylor and Dylan's friends, who also called her Granny Lo. We pray that Lolo Heller's memory be a blessing to her and her family, to all who loved her, and may she now rest in peace. And let us say amen. We want to let you know that there will be visitation and online Shiva Minyan this evening and tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m. Zoom information for those gatherings went out by email from the Hebrew Educational Alliance. The mitzvah, the sacred obligation of burying the dead, is one that is incumbent on family and on all of us present here today. It is a great mitzvah to participate in a burial because our tradition calls it chesed shel emet, the highest form of kindness that we can show another human being, because it is a kindness for which we can never be thanked or repaid. At this time, we will lower Lolo's casket as Cantor sings traditional psalm.
Esa Eina El Harim Me'ayinabo Yabo Edri Me'ayinabo Yabo Edri Esa Eina El Harim Esa Eina El Harim Me'ayinabo Yabo Edri Me'ayinabo Yabo Edri.
I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber nor sleep. Adonai is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm and guard your life. Adonai guards your going and coming now and forever. Al Mekoma Tavo B'Shalom. May Lolo Heller go unto God in peace. We now will invite family members to step forward to fill the grave, and then we'll invite anyone else who wishes to. We are taking some additional precautions, and we do ask you, according to custom, to return the shovel to the mound of earth, allowing the next person to complete the mitzvah. It's customary to place at least 3 shovelfuls of earth in the grave.
Oh, God. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, there you go. All the time. All the
Before we tear, let's say a blessing.
Let me get my.
Praise are you, Adonai, our God. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakat, Ishim, Adonai Mevorah. Adonai has given, Adonai has taken. And God's name be praised forever. We'll pause the burial at this time, and those who wish to remain afterwards to continue filling the grave are welcome to do that. We will conclude now with a few more prayers. First, the El Male Rachamim. So I'll ask you all, please rise if you're able. El Male Rachamim, Shochem Damdamim, Hamseh Menucha Nechona, Tachot Anshe Hashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Utorim, Yezoar HaRakyam Asirim, Et Nishmat Lehenia Bat Chayim Shachar Yolama, Began Eden Menuchata, B'Lan Abal HaRachim, Ashireh B'Tzadikah Shachar Yolamim, Utror Bitror HaChayim Nishmata, Adonai Unachalata, V'tanuach B'Shalom HaMiskava, V'nomar Amen. El Male Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Lolo Heller, known in our tradition as Leah Henya Bat Chaim, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We now will invite family to recite Kaddish together. Kadash Melaba Be'alma Ibra Irute Be'amrit Malchute Shechayefon Yomechon Chaye B'Chol Beit Israel Lagalav Bizman Kariv Emru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'Me'al Maya Yitbarach Yishabach Yitbahar Yitramach Yitnaseh Yitajar Yitalev Yitalal Shmei Yishav Rihu Le'elam Kol Irkata V'Shirata Tush B'Chata V'Nechemata Tamiran Be'alma Be'Ru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Yishamaya Yehayim Aleinu Ve'Al Yisrael Be'Ru Amen. Say Shalom B'Mama Uya Say Shalom Aleinu Ve'Al Yisrael. In moment, we'll invite those of you gathered here to help escort Lolo's family away from the graveside and to return to their cars. We do this traditionally by creating shurot, lines, a kind of column between which the family is escorted. It's a gesture of our community's support for you in the days and years ahead. As the psalmist says, as you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we pray that that shadow, that valley open up to lighter times in the future, and that you know that we are here to walk that path with you tonight and tomorrow at Shiva and in the days ahead. With that, we conclude with traditional words of comfort as we.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can invite you to come this way, we'll make this corridor of comfort right here. 2 lines facing one another. We'll extend down this way so they can walk back towards their car.
We offer traditional words of consolation. Makom Yenachem Etchem B'Tosha Avlei Tzion V'Yushalayim. May you find comfort in the days and years ahead. In the loving memory of Lolo Heller, among all who mourn about this world.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That does conclude our service.
Wish I saw you in
It doesn't even look like it's
Right.